Welcome to the deep dive. Are you ready for this?
Always.
Today, we're going on a journey.
Ooh, I love a good journey. Where are we headed?
We're diving deep into human history, but really deep. We're talking about reframing how we think about the whole thing.
Sounds ambitious. I'm in.
I was reading through all this research, all these articles, and it really got me thinking, what even is normal?
Right. It's so easy to get stuck in our own little bubble.
Exactly. We think our way of life is like the default setting for humans.
Food on the table, a roof over our heads, feeling safe. It's easy to forget that represents a tiny, tiny fraction of human history.
0.0001% to be precise.
Yeah, that's crazy when you think about it.
And here's another mind-blowing fact. Ready for this one?
Give me.
Our ancestors, they weren't alone.
You mean like aliens?
Not aliens, but close. We're talking about other human species. At least 6 of them coexisting on Earth.
Whoa, hold on. Like, imagine bumping into a Neanderthal at the grocery store. Talk about an awkward encounter.
Right. It really makes you question what it means to be human.
Totally. And some of these human species, like Homo erectus, they were around for a long time.
2 million years. That's 10 times longer than our own species has been around.
It makes you think, doesn't it? What was their secret? What allowed them to adapt and survive for so long? And what does that tell us about our own trajectory?
That's a great question, and honestly, the research doesn't give us a clear answer.
But it definitely highlights something important.
What's that?
We often see ourselves as the peak of evolution, like the ultimate achievement. But really, we're just one chapter in a much longer, more complex story.
And there's a lot we can learn from our hominid cousins, even if they didn't have, smartphones and all that.
Exactly. We tend to romanticize the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, but think about it. They had to be incredibly skilled to survive. Their knowledge of their environment had to be so deep.
It's true. Imagine the mental maps they had to carry around in their heads. The ability to track animals, to know which plants were safe to eat, to make tools from whatever they could find.
It's a different kind of intelligence, right? Not just about technology or abstract thinking.
It's about being connected to the world around you in a way that we've totally lost touch with.
And speaking of connection, that brings us to another crucial point. Fire.
Oh yeah, fire. Good point.
It was a game changer. For almost 2 million years, early humans were using tools, but not really making huge leaps forward. Then boom, fire enters the picture.
I can only imagine what that must have been like.
Imagine a reliable source of light and warmth, the ability to cook food, making it safer and easier to digest, even a way to fend off predators.
Right. And it's not just about basic survival either.
Exactly. Think about how fire extended the day. People could gather around the flames, tell stories, connect with each other.
Maybe that's where language started to develop, around those flickering flames.
That's a beautiful thought. And the research suggests that around 300,000 years ago, our ancestors were indeed communicating. They were using some kind of proto-language.
Proto-language, what's that like?
Imagine trying to have a conversation with someone from that time. It would be so difficult to express abstract ideas, like almost impossible.
Huh, that's so interesting. So this research poses this crazy question. How far back in time could we go, grab a human baby, and bring them into our world? Like, would they fit in?
So wild thought experiment. Anatomically modern humans, we popped up around 200,000 years ago.
So they'd look like us.
On the outside, maybe. But what we call behavioral modernity, the stuff that really makes us human, that came later, much later.
How much later?
Around 70,000 years ago. After some crucial genetic mutations allowed for complex language and abstract thought, that's the real turning point.
So if we snatched a baby from, say, 100,000 years ago.
They might look the part, but their brain wouldn't be wired the same way. Their capacity for language, for abstract thinking, it'd be fundamentally different.
So it wasn't just about physical evolution. It was a cognitive leap.
A whole new level of communication, cooperation, cultural transmission. And it set the stage for everything that came after.
And speaking of everything that came after, around 50,000 years ago, things really start to take off.
Oh yeah, big time. This is what the research calls the explosion of innovation.
Tools get fancier, art pops up, humans start migrating all over the globe. What happened? What flipped the switch?
It was a perfect storm. You had the fully developed human brain paired with sophisticated language. Boom. 3 incredible abilities unlocked.
Okay, I'm listening. Hit me with those 3 abilities.
First, the ability to rapidly expand knowledge. Second, the ability to preserve that knowledge across generations. And maybe most importantly, the ability to build on past knowledge, to gain even deeper insights.
We're not just smart, we're collaborative.
Exactly. It's about large-scale, flexible cooperation. We can share knowledge, learn from each other's experiences, and work together in ways that no other species can even dream of.
Bees have their hives, wolves have their packs. But humans, we can create these massive, intricate networks of collaboration.
It's what makes us unique.
And it brings us to another important point. While we may have a ton of knowledge as a species, we shouldn't underestimate our ancestors.
Right. It's easy to think of them as primitive, but they were masters of survival.
I mean, they had to be.
Think about it. Their lives depended on understanding their environment, mastering practical skills, and navigating tricky social situations. Some researchers even think they might have had bigger brains than us
Bigger brains, why?
because their environment demanded so much from them. It makes you wonder, who's truly more intelligent? The person who can build a computer or the person who can survive in the wilderness with just their wits and a few basic tools?
It's a humbling thought.
It shows that intelligence takes many forms. We may be good at abstract thinking and building fancy gadgets, but we've lost touch with so much of what made our ancestors thrive.
Like that deep connection to nature.
And speaking of big shifts in human history, here comes a defining moment, one that set the stage for everything we know today. The agricultural revolution.
The agricultural revolution. Okay, fill me in.
Picture this. Around 12,000 years ago, humans started doing something completely different. They begin cultivating crops, domesticating animals. They're transitioning from a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a settled agricultural existence.
So they basically traded in their spears for plows.
In a nutshell, yeah. But this shift had massive implications. It was revolutionary on so many levels.
I can see how having a steady food supply would be a game changer.
It was huge. It meant food surpluses, the ability to store food for later, population growth exploded, permanent settlements popped up.
No more wandering around following herds of animals.
Not exactly. Hunter-gatherers moved with the seasons, but it was deliberate. Agriculture anchored people to specific locations, giving rise to villages, towns, and eventually cities.
So it was like a domino effect.
Exactly. And with agriculture came this whole new concept. Land ownership, the ability to accumulate wealth, social hierarchies. Suddenly, not everyone needs to be a survival expert. You get specialized labor, people focusing on specific skills.
Farmers, craftspeople, leaders.
Exactly. And with specialization comes greater organization. Villages grow into towns, towns into cities. You need defense, you need complex social structures. It's like this snowball rolling downhill, gaining momentum. And eventually, you get kingdoms, empires, and the world we know today. But that's a story for part two.
It's amazing, right? In just a few thousand years, we went from these small nomadic groups to massive civilizations, complex social structures, advanced tech, huge trade networks. It really shows how adaptable humans are.
It's mind-blowing. And
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, the pace of change just keeps getting faster.
Right. As more people connected, ideas spread faster too.
We see writing systems developing, math, astronomy, philosophy, all the foundations of civilization, really.
It's like this incredible surge of progress. And then, bam, around 500 years ago, everything shifts again. The scientific revolution hits the scene.
Ah, yes, the scientific revolution. I remember learning about that in school. Lots of experiments and new discoveries, right? It was a total game changer. Suddenly, it wasn't enough to just accept the world as it was. People wanted to observe, experiment, question, and find the underlying laws of nature.
And they made some pretty big breakthroughs, right?
Oh, yeah. Think about it. We went from basically guessing about how the planets moved to understanding gravity.
That's a pretty big leap.
It was huge. And it didn't stop there. The scientific revolution led right into the industrial revolution, which transformed the world in a very practical way.
Factories popping up everywhere, new machines being invented.
Exactly. Mass production, steam engines, trains, telegraphs.
It's hard to imagine how different life must have been before all that.
And the research points out something really interesting. See, all this increasing efficiency meant that more people could contribute to progress. It wasn't just a few geniuses working in isolation anymore. It was a team effort.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes sense. Collaboration really is key.
It's how we solve problems and move forward as a species. Which brings us to today, the digital age.
Ah, yes, the age of computers, the internet, and information overload. Things have definitely sped up in the last few decades.
It's crazy to think about. The research actually broke it down like this. 125,000 generations since the first humans. 7,500 generations since anatomically modern humans, 500 generations since civilization, 20 since the scientific method, and just one generation with widespread internet access.
Whoa, that puts things in perspective for sure. We've come a long way in a very short amount of time.
We have. We live in a time of incredible prosperity and technological advancement. We've been to the moon, we're sending robots to Mars, we're unlocking the secrets of the human genome. It's truly remarkable. But,
There's always a but, isn't there? What's the catch?
well, despite all this progress, there's this underlying feeling that something's not quite right.
What?
Are we really building a sustainable future? Or are we just creating fancier versions of the same problems that have always plagued humanity?
That's a really good question. It seems like for every step forward, we take two steps back sometimes.
It's like we're trying to outrun our own shadow. The faster we go, the bigger it gets. So how do we use all this historical knowledge to face those challenges head on?
Right. We've learned so much about the past, but how does it help us with the present? And more importantly, the future?
Well, one key takeaway from history is that it's full of cycles. Empires rise and fall, technologies come and go, civilizations flourish and collapse. Change is the only constant. That comfortable, predictable world we're used to, it's actually pretty new, and the ground beneath our feet is constantly shifting.
So we can't just assume things will stay the same forever. We need to be ready for anything. But how do we do that when the pace of change is so fast and the challenges are so complex?
That's where another crucial lesson from history comes in resilience. Throughout history, humans have faced some pretty tough stuff. Natural disasters, wars, famine, disease. But we always find a way to overcome those challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
So it's not about avoiding change, it's about learning how to roll with the punches.
Exactly. We need to build systems that are strong and flexible, that can withstand shocks and adapt to new situations. We need to encourage creativity and innovation, and most importantly, we need to work together.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
You got it. The challenges we're facing, they're big and complicated. But they're not impossible to solve. We have the knowledge, the resources, and the brain power to figure things out. It all comes down to whether we're willing to act.
I like that. It's a message of hope. But I'm curious, are there any specific lessons from history that we can apply to our current situation? Like, are there any events or patterns from the past that might offer some guidance?
Oh, absolutely. One big one is the danger of short-term thinking. History is littered with examples of civilizations making choices that seemed good in the moment but ended up leading to their downfall. Overusing resources, neglecting infrastructure, ignoring warning signs. It never ends well.
It's like we're always tempted to take the easy way out, even if it means trouble down the road.
Exactly. We get so focused on instant gratification that we forget about the long-term consequences. But we need to start playing the long game.
So think ahead, plan for the future, consider the impact of our actions on future generations. Got it. What else can we learn from history? Any other big lessons?
Another big one is the importance of diversity and inclusion. Societies that embrace different perspectives, cultures, and ways of thinking tend to be more innovative, adaptable, and resilient.
And it makes sense when you think about it. The more diverse a group of people is, the wider the range of ideas and solutions they can come up with.
Exactly. We need to break down barriers, build bridges, and create a world where everyone feels valued and respected. It's not just about being nice, it's about survival.
So we've got adaptability, resilience, long-term thinking, inclusivity. Any other key takeaways from our journey through human history?
I think the final and maybe most important lesson is humility. As incredible as humans are, we need to remember we're not the center of the universe. We're just one species among many sharing this planet.
It's a good reminder to stay humble.
We've accomplished some incredible things, but we're not invincible. We need to respect the natural world, recognize our limitations, and learn from our mistakes.
Which brings us back to that question from the research. Are we building our civilization on a solid foundation or on shifting sands?
It's a question we all need to grapple with. The future is uncertain, but it's not set in stone. It's something we create through our actions and choices, both big and small.
It's both exciting and a little daunting, right? Knowing that we have the power to shape what comes next.
Yes. But we're not alone in this. We have the lessons of history to guide us, the wisdom of our ancestors to learn from, and the collective creativity of billions of people to tap into.
So what does all of this mean for us right here, right now? How do we take these grand ideas and turn them into something practical, something we can actually do in our daily lives?
That's where things get really interesting. It's not about making these huge sweeping changes overnight. It's about making small conscious choices every day that reflect the values we want to see in the world.
Like what kind of choices? Give me some examples.
Think about how you consume things. Support local businesses. Have respectful conversations, even when you disagree. Speak up for causes you believe in. Every little action adds up, you know? We're not just passive observers of history. We're active participants in creating it.
I love that. It can feel overwhelming to think about changing the world, but really, it all starts with us.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility, working together, and never giving up hope.
Okay, so we've talked about adaptability, resilience, long-term thinking, inclusivity, humility. Is there anything else we should keep in mind as we navigate this crazy, complex world?
I think the most important thing is to stay curious. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring. The more we understand about ourselves and the world around us, the better equipped we'll be to create a brighter future. But we'll have to save that for part 3.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've covered so much ground already. Millions of years of human history, the rise and fall of civilizations, all these big questions about where we are now. But what about the future? What can we learn from the past that might give us a glimpse of what lies ahead?
Well, the future's never a sure thing, right? But looking at the patterns of history, we can start to see some interesting possibilities. One thing's for certain, the pace of change is accelerating.
No kidding. It feels like every day there's something new to wrap our heads around.
Technology is evolving at an incredible rate. We've got environmental pressures mounting, demographics shifting. It's a whole new ballgame.
Right. It's like we're standing at the edge of this massive transformation. The old rules don't apply anymore.
Exactly. So what are some of the big things we might see on the horizon? Well, one that's looming pretty large is artificial intelligence, or AI.
AI. Yeah, that's been in the news a lot lately. Seems like it's popping up everywhere.
It is. And it's only going to get bigger. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they're going to play a bigger and bigger role in our lives. We're already seeing it in healthcare, transportation, finance.
Yeah.
But that's just the beginning.
It's pretty incredible, but also kind of intimidating, you know? What happens when AI starts making decisions that used to be made by humans? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's the million-dollar question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one we need to be thinking about very carefully. How do we develop AI responsibly? How do we make sure it aligns with our values and helps humanity, not hurts it?
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? But this research makes it clear. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's the reality we're moving towards, whether we're ready for it or not.
So AI is one big piece of the puzzle. What else is shaping the future?
Globalization is another major factor. The world is becoming increasingly interconnected thanks in part to technology. This brings a lot of opportunities for collaboration, innovation, and cultural exchange.
It feels like the world is getting smaller, you know? Like we're all part of one big global village now. But doesn't that also come with risks?
Absolutely. Think about pandemics, misinformation spreading like wildfire, cyber attacks that could cripple entire countries. The research argues that we need new ways to work together on a global scale to handle these threats.
It's like we're creating this massive global brain, but we still haven't figured out how to coordinate all the different parts.
That's a great analogy. And then there's another factor that often gets overlooked, demographics. People are living longer, having fewer children, and migrating in larger numbers.
Right, the whole population thing. That's going to have a big impact,
A
too.
huge impact. Think about it. An aging population, it means a greater need for health care, but it also means more people with experience and wisdom.
It's a double-edged sword, I guess. And what about the younger generations? How are they going to shape the future?
They're bringing a whole new set of perspectives and priorities. They're more aware of climate change, social inequality, and they're digital natives. They grew up with the internet. They're going to challenge the status quo in ways we can't even imagine yet.
It's exciting and a little scary at the same time.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And it highlights the importance of communication between generations. We need to learn from each other, respect each other's viewpoints, and find common ground. It's the only way to build a future that works for everyone.
So AI, globalization, shifting demographics, it's a lot to process. Where do we even begin to make sense of it all?
It can be overwhelming, for sure. But one of the big takeaways from all this research is that we have a choice. The future isn't set in stone. We shape it with every decision we make.
It's like we're writing the next chapter of human history.
Exactly. And we're not starting from scratch. We have the lessons of history to guide us, the wisdom of our ancestors to draw upon, and the ingenuity of billions of people to tap into.
We've spent all this time talking about the past, but it seems like the real message is about the future.
It is. It's about recognizing that we have the power to create the world we want to live in. It starts with taking responsibility for our actions, both individually and collectively.
And realizing that even small choices can have a big impact.
Exactly. It's about understanding our interconnectedness, working together, and never losing hope.
Well, we've explored a lot of ground in this deep dive into human history. I'm feeling a mix of emotions, to be honest. Awe, a little anxiety, but mostly a sense of hope. We've come so far as a species, and we have the potential to achieve even greater things.
I agree. The future is a blank page, waiting for us to fill it with our dreams, our aspirations, our collective wisdom. Let's make it a chapter worth reading.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.